Meanwhile, a southeast Memphis community is on edge tonight after learning a father of 8 was robbed and assaulted just a few feet from the front door of his home. It happened at a house on Clearbrook last night, and police say an 18-year-old and 19-year-old are responsible and are now behind bars at 201 Poplar. WREG's Michael Quandra is live tonight after talking to the victim's family. And Michael, what did you find out?
Well, Stephanie, the victim's family tells me that he pulled up in his own driveway in his own car when 2 teenagers, they came out of nowhere, and that's when police say they pulled out guns and robbed him. That family understandably shaken up tonight after investigators say the men hit Luis Rivera in the face, took his cash, and drove off in his car. Rivera wasn't hurt, and his family tells WREG the crooks not only got off with their stuff, but they also stole their peace of mind. Why were you sad?
Because I thought I was gonna lose him forever.
You don't think that's gonna happen to you, because you just see people walking down the street, and now it's gonna be frightening to see them walking, knowing what happened.
Now, officers spotted Jeremy Tyson and Malik Lacey in the victim's car about 10 minutes later near Knight Arnold and Mendenhall. The suspects ditched the car and tried to run away, that's according to police, but they were later caught, handcuffed, and thrown in jail. Now, police say the teenagers had a stolen gun, and one of them did not have a driver's license, and detectives also found drugs in the car. Now, we did an MPD crime check on the area, a crime map actually, and we found out that there had been more than 100 reported robberies just within 2 miles of where this latest carjacking happened, and that's within the last 3 months.
Why don't we take a look at one of those cases? A black person attacks an old white lady in a home invasion robbery.
Flashing lights and crime scene tape showed the trouble in the neighborhood this afternoon. Just before 1, Dana Humphreys and her daughter saw their 88-year-old neighbor walking down the street and called 911.
They slashed her throat, stabbed her in the abdomen a bunch of times. She was bleeding really bad.
Police said the victim was letting out her little dog Jake when she was attacked. The suspect stabbed her, then took off with her car. The victim is a staple in the neighborhood. Her grandson, who didn't want to go on camera, told me 6 years ago she was robbed and held at gunpoint in her driveway, but she refused to move.
She raised her family here in this neighborhood.
Spencer Brown says she's active, walks the neighborhood, talks to kids, and he's sick of the crime.
Just how bad is it going to get? I mean, when it gets to this point right here, when she can't even just bring out her dog, and without getting attacked.
This kind of violent crime in Memphis is a black. Why don't we listen to the mayor of Memphis as he explains it all to us?
Is that we have to come to full grips with the reality that in this country, in years past, black lives did not matter. If you look at the whole history of this nation, the 3/5 compromise, and so many things in which black life did not matter, or at least it was not equal, our society has not yet purged itself of that. So the phrase Black Lives Matter, there's been a lot of hype around it. People have took it to mean, green life doesn't matter, white life doesn't matter, yellow life doesn't matter. It simply says that to a degree that no other ethnic group has ever faced, in this country there has been and there is a history of just downright racial abuse which embedded in the law enforcement community in the past, that black lives really don't matter.
Well, I guess we have to be thankful to the mayor of Memphis explaining all the sociology, theology, political science, psychology behind this epic level of black mob violence and black on white crime and black crime that is so wildly out of proportion. Why don't we take another perspective from a former cop in Memphis? I'm a former white cop in Memphis. And Colin, you hit this town on the head with your evaluation of crime and calling it a, quote, dirty place. I only found you a few months ago on YouTube, and it's a pity because I could have fed you massive amounts of detailed information of specific crimes and the strategies they used cover them up so they never even made the news, let alone describe the actual facts of the races of both victims and suspects. I don't think I ever in my entire career took a report of a white suspect and a black victim. Unless it was something like a traffic accident where the guilty party ran a stop sign or something like that. Beale Street has forever been the place for white people to be victimized by black people. I worked one case where a black guy from the surrounding neighborhoods attacked a white couple late at night going back to their car after leaving Beale. And even though the guy gave him his wallet, the suspect still struck him with a full swing and filleted the victim's forearm, skin, and muscle to the bone from wrist to elbow. This was commonplace, as well as BB King's and other places being burglarized, and every time we caught them, the suspects were black. Not so much anymore, but huge gangs of blacks from all the nearby housing projects would come down and completely take over Beale Street, fight each other, and have what they called a gangsta walk. There was gunplay every weekend, and I hated it when it was my turn to go down to Beale Street from my normal shift work and help do security. Beale Street's only 4 blocks long, and they would still need 50 or more extra officers on Friday and Saturday nights to keep the peace. I was in several riots and stampedes of people running and shooting, sometimes numbering 500 or more at once. Finally stopped because the housing projects were so run down they basically condemned dozens of them at once. Then thousands of black residents were dumped out in the East Memphis suburbs, all on Section 8. They could no longer walk to Beale Street, which was good, but it turned out to be like leading those poor whites and blacks out there like lambs to the slaughter. And a slaughter it was. Serial rapists popped up everywhere and crime skyrocketed in every possible category. I was the victim of several serious crimes when I first moved to Memphis more than 25 years ago. I was shot at where the 45 bullet came through my front windshield, barely missed my head. And the other where a guy tried to cut my head off with a fillet knife, but the blade closed on his fingers instead. They were both black suspects, and we knew the identity of both. I was a rookie officer at the time of both incidents and didn't realize then, like I do now, that here in Memphis, the civil rights capital of the U.S., that if you are a white cop and the victim of serious crime, you better be badly injured or the brass command staff will not even investigate it. And it kind of goes on to say how he wished he had done more, and how he could, how maybe he should have spoken up more. None of these crimes were ever prosecuted, and I kicked myself because I didn't start a shitstorm and make people aware. If I had, it might not be as bad as it is. At least I could have made a difference in some way to illuminate the myth of white on black crime and the reality of black on white crime. I just got both White Girl Bleed a Lot and Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. I'm only 50 pages into your second book, and it sounds like I'm listening to incidents from guys in morning roll call about stories from the previous night shift. Well, there you have it. Violence denial, violence delusion, violence deceit. Finally, black mob violence and black on white crime in Memphis. And somebody from the front lines telling us the truth. So if you're ever down in Memphis, do 2 things. If you're going down to Beale Street to catch some of the world famous blues down there, remember the words of this former law enforcement official about what happens on Beale Street. That's number 1. And number 2, don't make the black kids angry.